Okay, it's time to go then. So let me introduce myself. My name is Lev. I'm responsible for marketing, and today I'm going to cover the latest firmware update for our hardware appliance, which is called TrueConf Group. This is a kind of a legacy equipment, but it's very new and have very nice breakthrough features inside you have never seen before in room equipment, and we're very happy to tell you about those new features today during this webinar. It will take half an hour, so we have prepared a small demo stand, small demo booth, which consists of our TrueConf Group hardware appliance. You can see it on the table. We have two cases, the old one and the new one. The new one will be available in two colors, but we will take about the new case later on the next webinar. But today we're going to cover the software update for this product. By the way, this product is one of the most affordable SIP and free-to-free based room solutions on the market. And it is available as a hardware appliance. It is not a software, something not very typical for TrueConf, but we for 2 years already are manufacturing those endpoints, and they're very popular. So they usually come along with the PTZ camera and the microphone or speakerphone, but actually you can use whatever USB equipment you have, and we added support for new equipment for this release, and we're going to cover this in the end of the webinar. So if you can hear me well, let's go, let's start. I will share my screen. Just a moment. Okay, I hope you can see my screen right now. So let's start. First of all, the new version is 1.0.59. So we shortened it for version 1.05. So this is the latest release, and we're releasing updates for all our customers. All new updates, firmware updates are back compatible with all previous modifications we shipped. So it doesn't matter what kind of what hardware version of our TrueConf Group room equipment you have, you are eligible to receive the update and all further updates until version 2.0, which are expected not in this year, maybe next year. So we are going to provide back compatibility for all versions starting with 0 or starting with 1. So that's pretty nice. So we cover almost 3 years for the equipment being manufactured 2 years ago. So this new version added support for 2 new protocols. So I will change the slide. We added support for VNC and for NDI sources. VNC is an old open source protocol for desktop capturing, and it can be used to display the VNC source in the layout of our room equipment. And NDI can be used as well for the same task to be displayed on the screen of your room. However, for NDI, we provide support in both directions. So it is also possible to output the picture you see on your main display, only on main display of the group endpoint. You can output it to the network using NDI protocol and capture it somewhere else. It could be a broadcasting software or hardware, or it could be used to deliver to corporate broadcasting system, depending on your tasks. So far, we do not offer NDI as a source for the cameras, so it will be added in the next release. So right now, we only support NDI for mixing into the layout of the existing conference call, or for output of the existing conference call to the network. So I will show you actually how it's going to work. So here we have our TrueConf Group on the table, and on my screen you can see the control panel for this endpoint. So I'm going to create a call and escalate this call to the multi-point conference. I have added in advance some contacts to my address book on the endpoint. So I'm going to initiate a call to VNC desktop, and after that I'm going to add some other sources let's add some AP camera source, RTSP source. Here we are. You can see me, the camera, and the desktop from different protocols on the screen. I will make the camera a little bit larger, so I press here, put a crown on it. So now we can see a picture from somewhere in Slovakia, I believe. And there is no SIP or free-to-free parties in this call so far. So we only added VNC source and RTSP source in the same call. Let's add a SIP and free-to-free participant to this call. We have ongoing conference on TrueConf MCU. I have started it in advance. Just a moment, here we are. So we have a multi-point call with 2 endpoints on TrueConf MCU, just for demonstration purposes. I will hide our application. I will call this room. Now we have 4 participants in the call, including myself, 1 from SIP and 2 from other connections, VNC and RTSP. You see that VNC could be used as a desktop source, so I will make it larger for the moment. And we mix different sources in the same call, and it is happening because the endpoint, the TrueConf Group we are using today, has built-in MCU feature. It is a built-in feature for most, not for all, our endpoints. It depends what version you order. So we have some versions which are a little bit more powerful than others, with a more powerful CPU inside. So the basic version doesn't have an MCU. More powerful version, in the same case, they're a little bit more expensive. They could have the built-in MCU for up to 4 or 8 Full HD connections. So the version we have right now has support for 4 Full HD connections. And you can see actually this happening on the screen. So I'm going to add to the same call the NDI source. So we don't know how to, because NDI is broadcasting into the network, so we don't have the exact address for the NDI source. So we built into the new version of our software the feature to automatically discover the NDI sources in the same network where endpoint is operating. So here we have a discovery tab which shows us the available sources. So let me check this out. So I will add to the call some sources. Here we have one of our developers. Let me make him a little bit larger. So, yep, yeah, Dmitry is working. And in this call, we're mixing free-to-free connection, VNC connection, RTSP connection, and NDI connection. And another new feature is that now it is possible to output the image we're mixing on the endpoint outside to the network using as well the NDI protocol. So to achieve this, I go to the settings, and in the call settings, we have to enable the sender for NDI, and it will automatically output everything being displayed on the main screen, on the main display. It will output to the network. So just tick this checkbox. Let's open NDI monitor from NDI tools and see is our source is available. Yes, it is. So this source is from our endpoint, and now I'm seeing absolutely the same 1080p 60 frames per second image being displayed from our endpoint on the screen. The same image is being displayed in the NDI display application. So it is absolutely the same. There's a very small latency. And if we'd like to stop NDI export of the main screen, we can uncheck this box and it will end automatically. So this feature of NDI export could be useful for broadcasting and for streaming. So we can control the layout being displayed on the main screen, and we can automatically output for third parties applications for different tasks. We can also play with the layouts on the endpoint itself. So all the layouts you are seeing right now are being mixed on the endpoint, not on the MCU. So if we select from the settings menu the main display, so now we can see the layout button, and we can select not a specific layout, but the type of layout, and all new participants being added or removed from the call will be displayed in this kind of layout. Everything on left, right, top, bottom, or equal size or corner. So it's up to you to decide. And we both support in the layouts overlay layouts or layouts without overlay. So I have to find where it is. It's difficult. Okay. Layout. Overlap mode. Let's disable it. So this is the classic mode. So layouts are not being overlapped over the main source. So they displayed in connection to each other, like in a gallery view. So this is the default mode. So once again, we added support for new two protocols, the VNC protocol and NDI protocols, and they could be used in both directions to be invited into the calls or to be exported outside. Before that, we were only able to output the RTSP source of the conference being displayed on the screen. And once again, I'd like to mention that the ability of the endpoint to display those sources are connected with the support of an MCU built in. So if you don't have built-in MCU in your endpoint, you will be able to only to make call, not to mix all them together. So we are not limiting calls for those protocols, VNC and NDI, but if you'd like to mix them all together, for example, to call remote location and share your screen using VNC, we advise to buy the codec, the endpoint with built-in MCU. So I will stop NDI sharing just a moment and change the layout again. We go to the settings, call settings, NDI sender. Let's freeze it. So it is live now, and let's freeze it. So the last frame being displayed. So we don't need this application anymore for NDI display. Let's go back to the conference. So the next feature in this new release is connected with the address book. So I will hang up all participants of this call to show you just a moment. So in the address book, now it is possible to display different groups. So let's create a new group. Let's call it rooms or huddle rooms. For example, we have multiple rooms in our location. And we can pre-fill it with some sources. Let's do this. Okay, so if we enable groups, now we have huddle rooms group here. If we'd like to remove a group, we just delete it, and it doesn't delete contacts. It only delete the way how they're being organized in the groups. So we still have contacts not being displayed in any group, in a special group called without a group. So it is made to ease the management of the large lists of connections or contacts you have. And another thing we added to ease the management of large contact lists is the support for additional connection details. So if I go to any contact, let's open the contact information of our MCU, I'm able to add additional addresses. Let's say I can add SIP address. This is some not useful information. I'm especially entering. Okay, let's enter the real address, something like that. Doesn't matter actually. I only want to show you. So we can add multiple addresses. We can even add the NDI address. And after that, we have multiple connection addresses for the same contact in one page. And in additional settings, we can select which protocol to use as a default protocol, the preferred protocol for this connection. So the endpoint will try to reach this this contact, trying to call the preferred protocol. If we leave it auto, it will try to reach one by one. The first string will be tried to reach, will be tried to be called in the first place, after that the second line, and then third. So you can set up the priorities for the same contact, how they could be addressed. And here as well, we can assign a group to the contact. Right now, it is not in a group, so I can assign it to the other rooms, for example. Here we are. So this is a very new feature to ease the administration of large contact list in our solution. Another new feature is the ability to limit the incoming calls for the contacts who are entered into the contact list. So let me show you. If I go to the call settings, it is now possible to accept calls only from my address book. In addition to the spam protection we already have, which limit the calls to your endpoint from SIP enable devices who are very noisy, who try to call you often, so we block them automatically. So if you'd like to add even more protection, you can only allow incoming calls and invitations to the conferences or virtual rooms only from specific addresses listed in your address book. So that brings more privacy to your endpoint. For example, you know for sure that this room, this endpoint in the room are only communicating with your facility, like for your location rooms or for specific remote location rooms. So you don't expect to be called from other locations. So you are free, and we advise you to check this box because SIP protocol is abused by many automatic bots in the network. So it's better to always enable spam protection, and it is also a good idea to accept calls only from the address book if you do not use for remote calls this endpoint. Another new feature is the support for remote control using SSH. So let me show you. If I open the terminal and try to SSH to the IP address of our endpoint, which is 10 by 110.14.36, like any other SSH destination, have to put the username before @ so we use admin to reach our room solution. So I will enter the password. Password is a required field. It is not possible to allow connection to your room equipment without password. So now we are successfully connected to our endpoint, and I have to enter the help command to see the list of available commands. The important thing about this new feature is that SSH works in both directions. So we are not only able to send commands to the endpoint, we are also able to receive events and updates from the endpoint. For example, if someone will try to call the endpoint, we will see the incoming call, and we can give a command using SSH, for example, to answer the call or to decline the call. And some other things are also available. So we can use this interface in a programming environments like, for example, to build Extron or AMX or Extron-based room controllers. They can use SSH to control our endpoint as well. So for automation tasks, this is a very essential feature, in addition to HTTP-based API we already have. For some developers, SSH is a more convenient way to control the endpoint. So let's make some demonstrations. I will make a call. Let's call our MCU once again. Here we are, and we see that MCU was reached as outgoing call, and we can have a look on call info, some information, which is here we are. Just a moment. We are not connected. MCU is busy. Let's try to reach someone else. Yeah, MCU is finally connected. So let's go to the SSH. Yeah, here we can have the detailed information about the endpoint being connected to us. We can also play with the layout. So for example, I can disable or enable the self view. So let's disable the self view. I write command self view off. And now my self view is not being displayed on the main screen, or I can enable it by self view on, or I can just toggle it. So I write a toggle, and my self view is being displayed. So I can move my self view around. So basically, all the things you can do with the remote controller is available using SSH. So there are many commands. Just type the help to see the description. We can also use the help keyword after the name of the command to see the available options for this command. So this interface is self-discovering, so you can play around and understand easily how to use it. To terminate the session, we have to enter exit. That's quite simple. So another new feature is the support for mobile devices for the web interface of this endpoint. So if I detach this window and make it smaller, you can see that interface is automatically adjusted to the mobile view. So it could be narrow or it could be a tablet mode, so it doesn't matter. We automatically adjust the layout, and there is no overlaps, there is no hidden elements of the interface. It provides the same controls in a very nice UI. Doesn't matter you are accessing our endpoint using your laptop or your smartphone or your tablet. You can do the same things using the same interface easily. And let me move it back to the layout. So we have covered the version. Let me show you the version 1.0.5 of our room endpoint called TrueConf Group, which is available as a hardware appliance. So you have to order the codec, and you connect USB or HDMI sources for video and audio of your preference. So it's up to you which equipment to connect. So it's pretty agnostic to the equipment you have. But the idea is that it is only provided as the hardware, piece of hardware. And peripherals could be selected from you. We also added support for new peripherals. I will go to the last slide. So we added support for latest generation of polysync devices. For this matter, I'm actually using a polysync speakerphone today. So such speakerphones 20, 40, 60 are now fully supported by our codec, by TrueConf Group. So we do support muting, we support call pickup. So all the buttons available on those devices are fully supported. Before, in the previous versions, we added the full support for Logitech equipment, and with this version, we also added support for Yamaha speakerphones. We especially recommend Yamaha YVC 1000 series devices. It is amazing speakerphone, and we can fully recommend it to use with our codec. With every version, we polish the compatibility with different codecs from different vendors and different firmwares, updates from those third-party vendors. So in this release, we improved compatibility with Cisco, WebEx Room equipment, and Cisco Meeting Server conferences, and some other equipment you can see from the changelog. So we advise you to update your firmware of TrueConf Group remotely. It is very easy to do. So just get in touch with us by any means using the live chat on the website, or send a ticket to our technical support team, and we will provide you with the binary file with a new firmware. It basically takes a couple of minutes for update, and you only have to browse to the binary file to update your endpoint. So it's pretty simple. Let me show you how to do that. So I go to the settings, I go to the maintenance, and I have to select the upgrade binary file. That's it, pretty simple. After that, the endpoint will automatically update itself, reboot, and you will be ready to receive and make calls with the new version. That's it. That was the new version 1.0.5 of TrueConf Group endpoint, and I will be happy to answer your questions if you have any. I will stop sharing my screen. Just a moment. Wonderful. We don't have any questions at the moment. Rudolf, do you have any questions?
Seems not at the moment. So just one quick question regarding the update. This version is available for any kind of groups, or it should meet some kind of hardware requirements?
It is totally agnostic to the version of codec we supplied before. So it is fully compatible with all versions of TrueConf groups, and we actually advise you to upgrade. Doesn't matter which version of the endpoint you have, with MCU, with capture card, or just a basic version. All versions are supported.
Yeah, thanks. Great news for everyone.
Wonderful. We will make a recording available for everyone next week. So thank you for your time. Be safe. Have a very nice day. And thank you for watching the update of TrueConf Group today. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you,
You,
Lev.
Rudolf.
Goodbye,
See you soon.
everyone.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
goodbye.